Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Our topic today is the White Horse says he went forth conquering and to conquer. And boy, from everything I see out there, we are getting really close to a lot of blood spilling. And of course, that's another thing that says maybe Vicky Parnell and Terry Bennett and Byron Searle are actually correct. Maybe we are in the tribulation. And I've been asked to tell you that, yes, to remind you, Berkey water filters are going away. Yes, they're filed lawsuits. They're trying to stop it, if you're familiar with the story. We've ordered some more. We've got 12 more royals that are coming in that are not spoken for. We are totally out of filters and all of the filters that we have coming in. Delivery is going to be 2 to 3 weeks. And yes, people are still panic buying Berkey because even if you got a unit, if your filters are all clogged and they have to be replaced, it depends on what you run through them, about every year or two. If you don't have filters, then you don't have anything. And so I want to just say, I don't know how to say this, but I'll just say it. Okay, so I think our heart was in the right place, buying a bunch of Berkey water filters so that you guys would be able to get them. This is my dog's, my wife's dog. She was in my lap. She's just moving around too much, so I'm going to put her on the floor. Anyway, I don't know how to say it, but maybe we put too much money. We put every bit of money that the ministry had down to almost breaking open the piggy banks of the grandchildren. And frankly, we're tight. So if you can help us, we really need it right now. So that's all I'm going to say about that. All right, so get on to the topic here. Flash traffic. German Army tank crew caught operating tank in Ukraine attacking the Russian Army. Yes, I know. Vicky Goforth Parnell says that Germany is actually secretly on the side of the Russians, and that makes sense. But they may not have crossed over yet. So it goes on to say, it is now confirmed a Russian Army reconnaissance team destroyed a German-supplied Leopard tank. This is supposed to be one of the biggest, maybe even one of the best tanks in the world, up there with the M1A1 Abrams tank. And the Russians are just destroying them left and right. That ought to be a warning. Anyway, so the German-supplied Leopard tank, the Ukrainian military, but manned a crew comprised of Bundeswehr soldiers or German army, meaning this is a German army tank with German army personnel, not mercenaries, German army personnel in it. What does that mean? He says, here's what happens. A member of the actual Russian recon team directly and personally involved in the incident was stated the following. When we curbed another offensive and ATGM destroyed with an anti-tank guided missile, the Leopard, we moved out to the burned vehicle hoping to seize the tongue. Then we saw that whatever the tongue is, I don't know. Then we saw that the crew's driver mechanic was severely injured and the others were dead. Once he awoke, the mechanic started yelling, Nick Scheifer, whatever that is, which is German for don't shoot. The head of the reconnaissance team said. The mechanic repeatedly stated that he was not a mercenary, but a Bundeswehr serviceman. In other words, he was an army military man in a German army tank on Russian property. Them's fighting words. Those, I would have to say that at this point, Russia has called to declare war on Germany. That's big. It goes on to say the tank's driver died from the wounds a minute later, but this is what he said before he died. He says, now the following comes from a source deep inside the Russian government. He said, it is the position of the Russian Federation that the citizens of Oblast, can't say the word, voted in a public referendum on September 27th of the year 2022 to secede from Ukraine and to join Russia, and it's 93.11% of the voters were in favor of joining the Russian Federation. So the area that this tank was found on is official Russian territory. Did you get that? So a German tank with German army soldiers in it was blown up and found on Russian territory. Again, that's Those are fighting words. That's permission to grant war if they want to. 3 days later, September 22, Russia signed an accession treaty, meaning that they made this part of Ukraine Russian territory. This morning, a German tank operating on Russian territory, manned by a German army tank crew, was engaged by Russian army forces and destroyed. He goes on to say, this is an act of war by Germany on Russia. Now, we don't know what Russia's going to do. Maybe they ignore it. Maybe they say, well, we're going to turn the other cheek because you're going to be on our side later anyway. But we don't know at this point exactly what's going to happen. On to the next article. Russian Black Sea Fleet headquarters was hit by Scalp missiles. Ukraine admits the West involved in targeting. Okay, the part we're concerned about is the West was involved in targeting. Remember my analogy? You got two people throwing rocks at each other, and one of them is giving the rocks to the other person. The other one is telling them how to throw the rocks, how to hit them where they're hiding. Okay, that's what the West is doing. We are now with a German tank with German crews, and here, this was a Western Scalp missile targeted by Western targeting that hit Russia. So this is two cases where Russia could say, if they want to, they could start attacking Germany, meaning NATO. If they attack NATO, then America's right in the middle of it too. So, I mean, we've got two causes here to say we could be at war with Russia. And I've already given you other ones. Let's move on. 2 French-supplied Scalp cruise missiles slammed into Russia's Black Sea Naval headquarters in Crimea today. Several high-ranking Russian military officers were reportedly killed. That's war, okay? There is a fury in Moscow, and it's time for an ultimatum to the West, they may be saying. The rockets penetrated several floors, tearing the building in half. The attack was sparked outrage in Moscow as it comes on the heels of a double strike against the Kilo-class amphibious assault ship, so there's actually 3 times Russia's been attacked. The Kyiv regime is investigated and pushed by the collective West will not stop escalating the military conflict with Russia. Let me read that again. What it's saying is that the West, meaning NATO and America, probably pushed by America, it continues to escalate the war with Russia. Let me go back to our couple of kids in high school. Okay, so one kid says, you're a smart aleck. The other kid says, you're a smart aleck. So then it goes to the next level. One kid doubles up his fist. The other one says, I'll meet you out in the parking lot. They get it, walking out to the parking lot. One behind him kicks dust on the feet of the one in front of him. The other guy turns around and starts to swing at him. This is escalation. This is what we're doing. Let me get this straight. America and NATO is escalating. They are making the bear angry, just like Dmitry Dudin was told back in 1994. We are angering Russia to the point to where the Bible says that they will say, we offend not, for they have sinned against the Lord. In this case, they're saying, we have a right to attack them. They attacked us first, you see. The attack on Sevastopol was probably coordinated with Western allies. Kyiv has already confirmed its participation in it. On to the next article. Office of Naval Intelligence leak. China is building naval ships 232 times faster than America is. Okay, in other words, China is preparing for war big time. Says this capacity can be used to build enough ships or to lift an army to invade North America successfully. This amazing oversized capacity to build naval vessels has caused some analysts to raise the alarm that the United States cannot even hope to catch up for years. So what does that mean? That means that if war starts and our first line battleships get taken out, we have no way to build more. If our current aircraft carriers get taken out, we have no way to build more. We are defenseless, just like I said yesterday. The whole program was talking about, if you didn't see it, you need to go see this one. It was like 55 minutes long, but trust me, it's worth it. Our government is in the process of disarming America. I said that yesterday. That's before he even come out with this. The other analysts have a more dire view. They say that China is building an enormous amount of lift to their military to be able to field a 200 million man army to invade and conquer North America, which it needs for food production and for its gigantic and growing population. The seeds for this dire analysis began under the Trudeau government in Canada. Oh, wait till you read this. It signed a treaty with China. Okay, did you get that? So Canada signed a treaty with China to allow Chinese troops to come into Canada, and the treaty made it explicitly clear that no local governments in Canada would not be identified or notified and could do nothing about the presence of Chinese troops in Canada. By using Canada as a beachhead, that's what it is, what they're really doing is pre-positioning armor and troops along with the U.S. northern border until they reach a mass and they're ready to invade. And that's what Dmitry was told, that America would be invaded down from Canada too. Part of the same article, the U.S. military in recruiting shambles. Now, in the meantime, so how are we doing building up our military and getting ready for this? We aren't. The armed forces of the United States are in a recruiting shambles. Every branch of the U.S. Armed Forces has been missing their recruiting goals, well, for the last several years. In other words, we don't have the men and women power to build up to fight a military. Meanwhile, North Korea, Cuba, Russia, and China, all these others, they are building amazing fast. Not just boats and ships and airplanes and nuclear missiles, but actual people. He goes on to say the troubles plaguing recruiting do not come from lack of available people, surprisingly, but rather a whole host of issues with these people. This is important. For instance, a very large portion of American young people are morbidly obese, to such a degree that the physical strength and stamina simply cannot be restored to make them fit for military service. Say, look, if you're 300, 350, 400 pounds or more, and some of them are more, how can they get that weight off? I mean, how can you ever return to military service worthy? How are you going to fit them in a tank? How are you going to fit them in some of the vehicles? How are you going to get them? How are you going to fit them into uniforms? Okay, that's the problem. Other potential recruits suffer from a host of disqualifying psychiatric issues. Men who think they're a woman trapped in a wrong body, women who think they're men, candidates with a history of suicidal ideation and or actual suicide attempts and more. Also plaguing the pool of potential recruits is mental inability to think critically, to make judgments, and to act on immediate information. In other words, I think he goes on to say here in just a second, drug use. They take these psychedelic drugs, marijuana. I mean, those things fry your brain. I know people up in Topeka, when we were ministering up there, I had a guy come to me, and I said, why don't you get a job? And he said, Pastor Stan, I want to, but I get a job at, like maybe McDonald's, just something simple like flipping burgers, but I can't concentrate. I can't keep my mind on what I'm doing, and I make too many mistakes. And he said, generally within about a day or two, they fire me. He can't work anymore. Brains fired or fried by drugs. All of this wasn't so bad. A sizable portion of the potential recruits are also physically weak and effeminate. They simply cannot be brought to military strength. Wow. Also, designer drugs. So a lot of the Americans, when I was growing up, most of the people were pretty smart and they were pretty strong. But they say that the greatest generation, the generation that won World War II, those people were raised on farms. They had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go feed the cows and slop the pigs. And they had to work all day long. And that's the reason they got turned out during the summer, because then they worked all summer long, and they worked, and they knew how to work. I was taught to work, but a lot of people today, they were never taught to work. They don't understand working hard. Next part of the article. Defense industry in shambles. The U.S. defense industry is unable, I'll say it again, unable to resupply the most basic warfighting products. What did I say in yesterday's program? I said, I do not know, but my guess is that we are unable to replace all of these massive munitions. Basically, our whole military machine has been sent to Ukraine, and the Russians have bloated it all up. The U.S. defense industry is unable to resupply the most basic warfighting products like ammunition, artillery shells, in sufficient quantities to restock what the U.S. has already given to Ukraine. In other words, people in high places inside America are traitors. Well, we know it's actually the hand of God turning us over to our enemies, just like happened to Israel. When they turned against God, God turned them over to their enemies, and He's doing it to us again today. Now, instead of hiring new employees to increase defense production, many defense contractors are having to lay off workers simply because they cannot get the parts necessary to assemble replacement weaponry such as Javelin missiles. Okay, those are technical things. And American manufacturers outsourced many of those jobs to overseas locations, and in the case of China, it is now coming back to bite the U.S. by China is saying, oh, no. We have an embargo. A lot of our Chinese companies that supply military equipment to America can't do it anymore. Why? Because we're helping Taiwan. And because I believe that they have it in their heart to attack and defeat us. This means that Chinese manufacturers can no longer sell certain electronics to those companies, electronics necessary to build and resupply all the fancy weapon systems. In other words, by our nation's military manufacturers sending or buying things from outside of America, now we shot ourselves in the foot. Now we can't make those fancy military items. What have we done? Well, we sent them off to Ukraine. And it wouldn't surprise me, but we don't have people trained to even use the fancy things now. It's nice to have high technology military things, but you got to have people that know how to aim it and shoot it. Apparently we don't. Not only is this affecting the U.S. ability to continue providing weaponry to Ukraine, but it is also affecting our ability to make weapons to defend ourselves, America. We can't defend ourselves anymore. Oh, it's going to get worse. With the vast array and quantities of weaponry being given to Ukraine, it appears to some defense analysts that the U.S. is being intentionally disarmed. I didn't know he was going to come out with this article. I said the same thing yesterday before this was even coming out. We are being intentionally disarmed. It's not just disarmed either. Disarmed by our own federal government. Now let's jump to the next part of the article. Commercial entities are unable to service our cutting off U.S. military. Now, okay, so what's this saying? It's saying that China's not supplying us the things we need to resupply or to rebuild the things we've given to Ukraine. But there's more. Danish shipping giant Maersk is backing away from providing shipping services to the Department of Defense. So the countries that made our military items can't make them anymore. When we do have the ability to make it in America, we can't get the parts we need anymore. And when we can get it from overseas, they can't ship it to us because the shipping companies don't want to work with us. Do you see a problem? I do. With most of the U.S. shipping gone from environmental regulations and UN labor contract demands, the few shipbuilders of the U.S., the few it still has, simply cannot meet the demand for new vessels or to timely repair existing vessels. In other words, God is taking our nation down. He's taking the number one military down to nothing. We've given it away. We gave away $85 billion when we left Iraq. We even left our dogs there. Military, the very best of the military, we left it there. We can't replace it. We are unarmed. We are a fat, sinful, lazy, unarmed nation that has piles and piles of diamonds and gold and silver, and guess what? They're about to come for a spoil. The U.S. must rely on foreign shipbuilders for hulls and for shipping services. Maersk has not said why they're backing away from providing services to the Department of Defense, but in fact they are doing so. So the question comes to mind, are these companies being pressured by China, or are other foreign governments trying to cripple the U.S.? Well, it doesn't make any difference. Still the hand of God taking us down. With China having 232 times the U.S. shipbuilding capacity, and with commercial ventures in the U.S. unable to resupply or even timely service existing ships, and now commercial entities are backing away from providing services to the U.S., it is starting to look as though, this is another one of my dogs, my wife's dogs. Okay, mine's a Belgian Malinois. I can't even get her up here. She's here in the room too. Anyway, from providing services to the U.S., it is starting to look as though we are being set up to be invaded and conquered. I'll read that again. We are being set up to be invaded and conquered. Now, this is from Hal Turner. He's not a prophecy student. I'm pretty sure he's never heard of Dimitri Duduman or Prophecy Club, or could care less. He's hearing it from intelligence sources. So, is America in trouble? You better know they are. On with the article. Military-age men. Southern border invasion. I've been talking about this. He's saying the same thing I'm saying. There's been an over 500% increase in young, fit, military-age Chinese men, but it's not just Chinese men. Over 140 different nations have poured into our nation over the southern border. And in Jeremiah, either chapter 50 or 51, it says, I will fill her with men as with caterpillars. So this is the hand of God bringing other sinners into our nation, because our nation has chosen not to accept the blood of Jesus, but instead chosen the road of sinners. So God is saying, you want to become a nation of sinners? So I will fill you with other sinners. So consequently, you can expect not just rapes and murders and thefts and things like that, breaking in. You can expect that more than that to go up. They're going to start blowing up things. I'm going to say that he's about to say this in so many words, but I'm going to say it now myself. I think they're going to start blowing up electrical stations, shutting down our electrical grid, poisoning our water supplies that come out of our faucet. They'll probably be going into rich neighborhoods by the hundreds and just stealing everything they want from the neighborhood, raping, pillaging, plummeting. Plummeting, destroying anything, everything they want to, because, that's the way it was where they came from. They couldn't get a job. They don't want a job here either. Some analysts think that they are the fifth column. I agree with them. Wolves in sheep's clothing, entering our country at the behest of the Chinese Communist Party. It's more than just China. Matter of fact, if you watched in the articles here lately, Venezuela and Cuba and Nicaragua and Mexico, all of those southern countries, they're pouring in here, all military age. And at first, they were telling us, they're women with children. These aren't women with children. These are military age males. They're hungry, they're angry. Probably they hate our nation. And if they don't hate our nation, by the time the Molochs get done with them, they will. Wolves in sheep's clothing entering our country at the behest of the Chinese Communist Party to lay in wait for an order to attack the U.S. from within. Boom. He said it. I've been saying it for a long time. And the U.S. federal government is making it easier for people to enter the country illegally. Oh, really? Yeah. The Biden regime has actually ordered gates, the former President Trump's border wall, to be welded open, not shut. So, Trump built a wall, but he put in gates. And so they're going and welding the gates open. There's more. Strategic Petroleum Reserve, I can't even read. Strategic Petroleum Reserve drained. The United States established the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, obviously in preparation for war, after the Arab oil embargo of the 1970s. The SPR can hold a little over 700 million barrels of oil in giant underground caverns in Louisiana and Texas. Yet, the Biden regime has ordered the SPR to sell off much of that reserve to artificially reduce gasoline prices in the USA. No. That's just what he's saying. He's selling it off so that we will be crippled in a time of war. Oh, well, wait a minute, Stan. We got oil underneath us. We've got oil in here in America. Even Trump says we've got more oil than any place else on the globe. That's right. But you got to get it out of the ground. You got to get it to the refinery. But a lot of the oil in America is pumped down through that pipeline all the way from Alaska. And one bomb in the right place, it's all cut off. As of today, more than 2/3 of that 700 million barrels of SPR have been sold off, thanks to Biden, and are gone. There are presently no plans and no money to refill it. When the U.S. invaded, and we cannot import foreign oil because we're in a war zone and ships cannot safely come and go, we won't have much more than a month or two of fuel with which to fight and defend our own nation. Brothers and sisters, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. Get prepared. It took me about 20 minutes to make these 2 loaves in my kitchen at an ingredient cost of about $12 each. In a time of food shortage and emergency, I'm going to cut each one of these loaves into 14 slices. Eat a slice in the morning and the afternoon, I'll be satisfied. You want long-term food storage? You want to cut your food costs? Here it is. Eat 2 whole wheat bread slices daily for about a year for about $800 each. JosephKitchen.com's wheat berries come in a nitrogen-infused 7-gallon pail for long-term storage. Most other emergency food costs about $10,000 per person per year. That's right, about $10,000 per person per year. But at Joseph Kitchen, you could do it for about $1,000 per person per year. Now, to get started at josephkitchen.com, you're going to need a machines package. That's going to give you the grinder, the bread machine, the knife slicer, all you need to make bread, and then you decide how much food you want to get. You want food 6 people 1 year, 4 people 1 year, 2 people 1 year, or just 1 person for a year, all at josephkitchen.com. About $1,000 per person per year at josephskitchen.com. Use the promo code Prophecy Club. Get you a $50 discount. josephskitchen.com, promo code Prophecy Club for a $50 discount on your first order. Terry Saka, CornerstoneAssetMetals.com. The world seems to be falling apart financially. Why should they call CornerstoneAssetMetals.com today?
Well, the FDIC insurance fund is now empty. Not only is it empty, it's at zero. So now all bank bailouts are going to have to come from taxpayers. This could result in trillions of new currency notes being printed. The more they print, the more inflation we're going to have, potentially hyperinflation, and we need to protect ourselves away from that dollar.
CornerstoneAssetMetals.com. Go online or give them a call at 888-747-3309. CornerstoneAssetMetals.com. You don't have to get anything today. Just give them a call and say, hey, here's my situation. What do you suggest? So what is an EMP Shield device? It's a device you can put on your car and your house that in an EMP attack is supposed to stop the attack. And if you go to empshield.com and if you use the promo code Prophecy, they give you a $50 discount. They also have videos up there, shows you how to install it on your car and your house and everything, and it's not difficult at all. I've got one of them right here. Red goes to red, black goes to black, green goes to the car, body of your car, and you just peel it off the back, stick it under there. Got another device that goes on your house. So not complicated. Take you about 10 minutes to put them in. So empshield.com, promo code is Prophecy. Rule number 1, make sure your name is written in the book of life. Rule number 1, ask Jesus to forgive your sins. That's the most important thing. Number 2, most important thing, whatever happens, do not take that mark of the beast. You take that mark of the beast, you can cut your hand off, you can chisel off your forehead, but you're going to spend all eternity with the beast, the false prophet, and 1,000 years later, Lucifer joins them, and all the other people that take the mark of the beast, and there is no hope of escape. You are tormented. That means you're in total pain. It means that your body, although it's not a body of flesh, whatever it is, your body is totally being burned for all eternity, and there is no stopping it. There is no escaping it. Whatever happens, you do not want to take that mark of the beast, which, by the way, I would recommend you go to prophecyclub.com and get my book, Miss the Mark. As a matter of fact, it's sold so much, we are, I think, now going into the 5th printing. This book is simple. It only takes about 3 hours to read. It's designed to give to someone that's not a Christian, doesn't know Jesus, that hadn't read the Bible. Give it to anybody out there. If they'll read the first few pages, they'll probably finish the book. And if they finish the book, I don't care what God they used to have, they're not going to take that mark of the beast. And chances are very strong they'll receive Jesus. So for that, I would send you to prophecyclub.com. 1 for $20, and you'll have to check and get whatever the other prices are. I will say this, they just went up substantially on our printing price. And so guess what? No surprise, we had to go up on our prices too. But nevertheless, not about money. It's about winning souls.